Welcome back to College 101. Today I'm answering a question I've seen a lot of right now because it's finals week. People want to know how to figure out what score they need to get on their final. It's a pretty simple and quick calculation as long as you have the right information, so I'm going to go through it two different ways for you. The first way is just straight what you need on your final. The second way is a common grading system where your professor will replace your lowest test grade or replace your homework average or replace something with your final grade if it is higher. There are only a few pieces of information that you need to solve this problem, and the first one is what percentage of your grade the final is. Oftentimes that's going to be somewhere between 10 and maybe as much as 40 or 50% depending on the class, but you can find this in your syllabus or maybe in some announcements from your teacher, and you use this number as part of a weighted average. Along with that, you need to know what percentage everything else in the class is worth, which is just 100 minus your final. So if your final is worth 25%, everything else is worth 75%. Pretty easy. The only other piece of information you need to know is your current grade in the class. That's because we need to know how much of a gap you're trying to make up. So I guess you also need to know what grade you want to get. And you can run this at all different grade points so you can figure out what's reasonable and what's not. Let's go ahead and start with an example really quick. Let's say that you have a 77 in the class right now, and you want to get a B. So that's an 80%. We're just going to assume an easy, straight, flat grading scale for this example. So let's also say that in your syllabus, it says the final is worth 25% of your final grade. That means that everything else, that 77% you currently have, is worth 75% of your grade. And so to figure out what your final grade is going to be, you just take that 75% times 77, and then you take 25% times your final grade, and that equals 80. So that's how you would do it if you're calculating with a known test grade. What we can do is we can rearrange this so that it looks like this, and it'll be just one simple formula for you to solve. And if you solve that out and then round to the nearest whole number, or actually round up because you have to get higher than this score, you see that for this example, you need an 87% on your final to take your grade from a 77 to an 80. All right, break time. One day a kid was getting on the bus and he stopped for a second to ask his bus driver, "Why are you always so happy?" And the bus driver just looks at him and says, "All my problems are behind me." If you like that joke or this video has been helpful for you during your finals week, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps me know that I'm making the right kind of content and will help more other people see it on YouTube. So again, it all boils down to one quick little formula, so it's not super complicated, but there are a few things in the grading rubric that can throw you off or make it a little more complicated. The most common one, and I'm going to do an example of this, is what if your professor says, "I'll replace your lowest test grade from the semester with your final if you score higher." So it's pretty much the exact same process. The only difference is in those percentages. So if we run the numbers again in a different example, let's say that you still have that 77% in the class, and the final is still worth 25% of your final grade. But let's say that on one of your midterms, you didn't do very well, and that was worth 15% of your grade. What we're going to do is, because your final can replace it, it's basically like your final is worth that part of your grade. So for this example, we would say that your final is worth 25% plus the 15% you potentially could replace if you score well enough. So now your final is worth 40%, and everything else in the class is only worth 60%. And this actually works in your favor, as you'll see with the final answer here. So we take those numbers and plug it back into that simple equation here. You're going to see that now you only need an 85 on the test. Now, that's not a huge difference, but if it's a 100-question multiple choice test, that's 2 questions. It's, maybe 1 or 2 more mistakes you can make on a partial credit math test. And so that little bit of margin can really go a long way. Hopefully this was clear to you and helpful to you, and hopefully you're in a good spot where this not only seems feasible or possible, but seems within reach. I hope that you had a great semester. I hope things are going your way, but if not, this can help you decide where to put your time. For example, if you've got one class that you're trying to take from a C to a B and another one from a C to a B, you can see how far maybe this class, there's no way you're going to make an 87%. And you know that. And so you need to study enough just to make sure your grade doesn't drop. Whereas if you have another class, maybe you're trying to go from an 89 to a 90, that's only 1 point. What do you have to do? And you can see how feasible that is. It'll help you spend your time most wisely during finals week, which is one of the best strategies you can do during finals week, is spend your time productively and effectively. Thanks for watching this episode of College 101 here on the College Guide. We'll see you next time.